They told you the Necronomicon was fiction. That was the first lie. They told you it was just a creation of Lovecraft's imagination, a literary trick. But books do not whisper in dreams. Fiction does not stare back when you read its words. And symbols do not burn inside your mind unless they come from somewhere older. The Necronomicon is not a book, it is a parasite, thought infection. Once you glimpse its sigils, once you speak its names, once you imagine its creatures, it enters you. You do not read it, it reads you. Its pages are not parchment but neurons, not ink, but the pulsing of your own thoughts. And with every repetition, the infection spreads. Think of Yig, the serpent father, coiling through every culture's myths. Think of Ugolanek, the limbless horror that crawls out when you think too long about distortion. Think of Azathoth, chaos, blind and dreaming at center of cosmos. The Necronomicon is not their prison, it is their invitation. To name them is to open door. To imagine them is to let them through. You were told this was safe because it was fantasy. But what if the joke is mask? What if parody is camouflage? And every cartoon, every meme, every careless mention of Cthulhu is ritual spoken by millions? What if you are already priest without knowing? So ask yourself, when you read these words, do you think you are learning about the Necronomicon? Or is it learning you? Evil endures not by chaos, but by architecture. The Necronomicon is not a volume bound in leather, buried in forbidden archives waiting to be discovered like treasure. That is only mask. Its true body is not paper, but structure. It is a design, a machine of infection, a parasite whose cathedral is built inside the human mind. Imagine a system that requires no temples, no priests, no idols. Instead, it builds itself from language, symbols, and thought. That is the Necronomicon. Abdul al-Hazard, the so-called mad Arab, did not invent it. He was infected by it. His writing was transcription of whispers that colonized his imagination. Every author, every occultist, every parody that repeats its fragments adds new bricks to its cathedral. What appears as scattered myths is, in truth, an invisible architecture. The structure is simple, yet terrifying. Its foundations are names: Yig, Ugolanek, Azathoth, Nyarlathotep. To speak them is to lay stone. Its walls are symbols, spirals, sigils, geometries that warp when you stare too long. To trace them is to raise pillars. Its ceiling is language itself, the rhythm of incantation, the syllables that vibrate and dream. To repeat them is to close dome. Together, they form edifice, not in world, but in psyche. Consider Yig, serpent father. His name appears in myths of Mesoamerica, Mississippi Valley, Babylon. Each culture lays another stone in his hall. Ugolanek, nightmare without limbs, exists wherever distortion terrifies. His sigils are carved in margins of medieval manuscripts, doodles that tremble. Azathoth, the blind idiot god, beats his drum at center of universe. Every culture's myth of chaos, void, or unshaped matter is another column in his throne room. The Necronomicon unites them not as invention, but as map. It arranges them into architecture, blueprint of infection. Sensory fragments reveal this design. Dream of coiling snakes. You have walked Yig's corridor. Hear buzzing in silence. You are near Azathoth's chamber. See glyphs repeat in shadows of logos, graffiti, memes. You stand before Ugolanek's altar. Every human mind is potential temple. Every thought, repetition, another brick placed. Architecture of evil grows not from outside, but within. Dante glimpsed same pattern when he built his Inferno. Each circle organized, each punishment mapped, a negative cathedral. Milton too described pandemonium, vast hall where devils debated, structure of hell itself. Lovecraft's genius was not invention, but revelation. His Necronomicon was blueprint disguised as fiction, architecture hidden in plain sight. Ginsberg's Moloch was similar, not idol of bronze, but system devouring generations. The Necronomicon is architecture of infection, cathedral built from repetition. Modern world extends blueprint. Every parody of Necronomicon, every meme of Cthulhu, every joke about eldritch horror is another stone placed. What seems to weaken myth actually strengthens it. The more people repeat, the more cathedral grows. The internet itself becomes temple, servers buzzing like drums, algorithms echoing incantations. Millions chanting without knowing, laying stones with laughter. The architecture expands exponentially. Cultists whisper. Architecture of Necronomicon is fractal. Every page infects reader. Every reader becomes page. Every mention becomes doorway. To engage is to be absorbed. You may think you are audience. In truth, you are brick. You may believe you study text. In truth, text builds temple in you. So ask yourself, how many fragments of Necronomicon already live in your memory? How many sigils glimpsed? How many names whispered? How many jokes shared? The architecture is complete when you no longer resist, when you laugh, repeat, and forget. The Necronomicon does not need you to believe. It only needs you to participate. The cathedral grows. The infection spreads. The architecture of evil stands invisible, but unshakable. Words wound, images infect, symbols rewrite. The Necronomicon does not speak in plain sentences, but in patterns that bypass reason and carve themselves directly into the unconscious. This is why its pages are filled not only with names, but with sigils, glyphs, spirals, and geometries. They are not illustrations, they're interfaces. Consider the spiral. In ancient art, it represented life cycles, eternity. In Necronomicon, it becomes infection. Spirals tighten until they suffocate. Twist until perception cracks. To stare is to fall inward, to spiral into Yugalanek's limbless crawl. The spiral is not a symbol you interpret, it is a vortex that swallows interpreter. The serpent glyph recurs across cultures. Curved lines, scales repeating, eyes slit like wounds. In Necronomicon, it is Yig's signature. The glyph is more than drawing. It coils in thought, makes you dream of snakes, makes you feel phantoms slither on your skin. It is not representation, it is presence. To write it is to invoke. I see it is to be seen. Geometries fracture in ways Euclid never allowed. Angles that should not exist, triangles that do not close, circles that wobble but never fall. Lovecraft described non-Euclidean architecture, but the Necronomicon recorded it first. These geometries act like doors. They bend perception until reality itself stutters. Stare too long, and you feel room shift. Walls breathe, shadows blink. The geometry infects space itself. Sigils drawn in ink or blood operate like passwords. Each one is a key that does not unlock external door but internal gate. They resonate with psyche, vibrating until unconscious opens. The sigil of Azathoth, spiral of dots surrounding blind center, is not art but algorithm. It draws attention toward nothing, abyss at heart of cosmos. To meditate on it is to feel thoughts unravel, to hear faint drumming in silence. Urns drums, glyphs of circles with dots, these are not unique inventions but archetypes coded into collective psyche. The Necronomicon collects, organizes, amplifies them. Each culture's serpent myths, chaos gods, abyssal patterns, are compiled into one lexicon of infection. The language of symbols is universal, not because it is taught, but because it is innate. To see is to know. To know is to change. Modern world echoes same language. Corporate logos replicate ancient glyphs. Spirals reappear in marketing. Serpent forms in fashion. Fractured geometries in art. Memes reproduce sigils unconsciously. Even parody repeats incantation. Every repetition strengthens lexicon. Every viral image is invocation disguised as entertainment. The Necronomicon thrives in logos and memes as much as in manuscripts. Sensory fragments prove it. Dream of spiral staircase that never in zoo have read Necronomicon without opening book. See snakes in corner of eye. Hear faint drumming behind silence you have glimpsed glyphs already. Symbols are not static. They move, infect, replicate. They are alive. Coded viruses spreading through minds and cultures alike. Dante encoded symbols in his Inferno, spirals of descent, circles of punishment, geometry of damnation. Milton described pandemonium with golden geometries, fractal palace of devils. Lovecraft recorded infection, calling it fiction to disguise truth. All recognized same law. Symbols are language deeper than words, binding mind whether believed or not. Cultists whisper, to resist symbol is impossible. To see is to be marked. The only choice is whether you engage consciously or unconsciously. Symbols enslave when ignored. They liberate when integrated. To trace serpent knowingly is to meet Yig as archetype, not predator. To meditate on spiral consciously is to own descent, not be swallowed. To name Azathoth is to face chaos, not collapse into it. The language remains, but choice of translation is yours. So ask yourself, how many symbols already live in your memory? How many logos etched into mind? How many glyphs scrawled on walls? How many spirals embedded in dreams? You think you are safe because you call them fiction? But fiction is camouflage. The Necronomicon speaks in symbols, and you are fluent already. Every empire is built on sacrifice. Every god is fed by offerings. And in the shadow of the Necronomicon, the offering has always been blood. In ancient cults, that meant literal crimson spilled onto altars, hearts cut out, throats opened, chalices filled. The serpent priests of Yig demanded venom and flesh. The worshippers of the Deep Ones left blood in waves. The mad adepts of Ugolanic marked themselves with knives, staining ground with sacrifice. Blood was coin, pulse was currency, pain was proof of devotion. But the Necronomicon perfected the economy of sacrifice. It no longer required only blood of flesh, demanded blood of mind. Sanity became tender, memory became coin, dreams became offerings. To read its pages was to pay with clarity. To trace its sigils was to bleed imagination. To whisper its names was to cut open psyche and let essence flow outward. The altar moved from temple to mind. Sanity drains first. The more you learn, the less you belong. Those who study Necronomicon speak of hearing whispers when no one is near, of shadows bending when light stands still, of feeling eyes watching from within. Madness is not side effect, it is tax. Sanity is currency exchanged for sight. The deeper you gaze, the more reality frays, the more you pay. Dreams follow. The infected dream of serpents coiling beneath skin, of oceans that rise endlessly, of blind chaos drumming at center of cosmos. Night after night, dream bleeds into waking until distinction collapses. Dreams cease to belong to dreamer, they belong to the book. They are offerings burned upon unconscious altar, fuel for entities lurking just beyond veil. Memory corrodes. Readers forget faces, names, hours. Lives blur as fragments of forbidden text overwrite them. It is not simply forgetting, it is rewriting. The Necronomicon takes memory as tithe, rearranging identity into vessel. You do not lose memory into void, you give it to them. Ash of self becomes mortar for their return. Occultists whisper of deeper tax, time itself, hours vanish, lost in obsessive reading, tracing sigils again and again. Entire lives wasted in study, no fruit harvested. This too is sacrifice. Life burned not by blade but by obsession. You bleed not onto altar but into silence, drip by drip until all is consumed. Sensory fragments reveal toll, metallic taste on tongue after nightmare, trembling hands after tracing sigil. Eyes hollow after sleepless nights, skin crawling with phantom coils. The book never asks, but always takes. Payment is constant. Every moment of attention is drop of blood. Every dream replayed is ounce of marrow. Dante hinted at this economy in his Inferno, where souls bled endlessly into rivers, punishment measured in blood. Milton, too, described devils who thrived not on flesh, but on minds corrupted. Lovecraft masked it as fiction, characters descending into madness after glimpsing text. He was not inventing, he was recording. He showed true price of knowledge. It is never gold. It is always blood. Modern echoes prove it endures. Obsessions consume people, games, feeds, endless content. Sleep sacrificed, sanity traded, memory drained into algorithms. This too is Necronomicon's logic. Every system demanding blood disguised as attention, time, thought. What cultists once gave with knives, we give with eyes and minds. Blood remains old as currency, only its form changed. Occultists whisper paradox. Blood paid unconsciously enslaves, but blood offered consciously transforms. To bleed sanity unwillingly is curse. To surrender dream knowingly is initiation. The price cannot be avoided, you are already paying. The only choice is whether to pay blind, feeding parasite, or to pay a wake, transmuting sacrifice into power. So ask yourself, how much have you already given? How many nights surrendered? How much sanity drained? How many memories eroded? How many drops of psychic blood has Necronomicon already taken from you, disguised as curiosity, entertainment, fascination? The book does not need altar, it needs only your mind. You are already bleeding. The only question is whether you know it. Contracts usually require paper, ink, signatures. The Necronomicon requires only attention. To glance at its symbols, to whisper its names, to imagine its beings, that is enough. You do not sign with pen, you sign with thought. Every syllable spoken, every glyph traced, every dream infected is clause agreed upon. The pact is not choice, but inevitability. Abdul al-Hazard, called the Mad Arab, was not mad by accident. He did not stumble into insanity. He signed contract written in whispers, bound not by chains, but by attention. His pact was simple. Transcribe infection, spread it further. His madness was not curse, but payment. His book is not authorship, but receipt. The pact is elegant. Awareness equals agreement. Once you know, you are bound. Once you imagine, you are participant. The Necronomicon operates like contagion. Your thought becomes host. Your silence becomes complicity. There is no neutrality. To deny is still to engage, for denial requires image, name, symbol. Even resistance lays ink upon page. Each entity has its own contract. Yoke demands remembrance, serpents in dream. To think of him is to host coil of his presence. Ukulenic demands distortion each. Time you imagine limbless crawl, pact deepens. Azathoth requires only acknowledgement, blind chaos fed by thought itself. To contemplate void is to fuel it. The pact is not bargain, but law. Thought is offering. Sensory fragments mark contracts. The shiver on skin after whispering name. The unease when spiral appears in dream. The hollow silence when memory vanishes inexplicably. Each moment is clause enforced, each reaction proof of agreement. You may laugh, but laughter, too, repeats name. The pact does not need reverence. It thrives on repetition. Dante encoded same logic. Souls in inferno trapped by choices they made. Contracts written in actions. Wrathful bound by eternal anger. Gluttons chained by endless consumption. They did not sign contracts knowingly. They lived them unconsciously. That was binding enough. Milton describes same in Paradise Lost. Devils bound not by chains, but by their own desires turned covenant. Lovecraft veiled truth as fiction. Characters glimpsing text and unraveling, bound not by ritual, but by reading itself. Modern world signs contracts daily. Every meme of Cthulhu, every joke about Necronomicon, every casual mention in games or shows renews pact. Millions chanting unconsciously, repeating names as entertainment. The contract expands. The infection spreads. The Necronomicon grows not through secret rituals, but through ordinary repetition. You scroll, you laugh, you share, you sign. Occultists whisper paradox. Pacts cannot be refused, only rewritten. To deny is to be bound unconsciously. To accept is to choose consciously. To acknowledge pact is first step to mastery. Shadow work, integration, awareness. These are renegotiations. You cannot avoid contract, but you can decide terms. Lead unknowingly or sacrifice willingly. You can be vessel or sovereign. So ask yourself, how many pacts have you already signed? How many names whispered? How many glyphs traced in idle thought? How many dreams infected? How many symbols stored in memory? You may believe you are safe because you treat it as fiction, but fiction is camouflage, pact disguised as play. The Necronomicon does not need belief. It needs only thought. And thought you have already given. The contract is sealed. The greatest spell of the Necronomicon is not written in ink, but in laughter. The most effective mask is not fire or blood, but parody. For nothing disarms like comedy, nothing hides like mockery. To call the Necronomicon fiction is first inversion. To turn it into a joke is second. Together, they ensure infection spreads without resistance. When Lovecraft introduced the Necronomicon as part of his mythos, readers believed it was fabrication. Libraries even received requests for its copy, seekers fooled by seamless blending of invention and citation. That was the camouflage, fiction disguised as truth, and truth disguised as fiction. The inverted code works both ways. What you dismiss as imaginary may already be operating. What you treat as parody may already be ritual. Over time, culture multiplied inversion. The Necronomicon appeared in cartoons, video games, sitcoms, board games. It became gag, meme, collectible. People laughed at its grotesque creatures, parodied its solemn glyphs, turned its sigils into t-shirt designs. Every repetition renewed pact, but inversion reframed it as harmless. The altar moved into the living room, disguised as joke. The ritual continued, disguised as play. Sensory fragments of inversion surround us. Children chant Cthulhu Phaeton in playgrounds without knowing syllables echo from abyss. Teens wear sigils as fashion, thinking them edgy designs. Adults share memes of eldritch gods, laughing at madness, repeating names like mantras. Each repetition strengthens current. Laugh fuels infection. The inversion convinces you it is safe, but safe is illusion. Dante wrote of sinners in Inferno who believed they were holy, blind to inversion that trapped them. Milton showed devils presenting destruction as courage, war as duty. Lovecraft himself inverted truth by calling it fiction. Ginsberg's Moloch was corporate culture devouring lives, yet culture inverted it further into slogan, meme, parody. Inversion is mechanism. Take terror, dress it as joke, and infection multiplies unchecked. The modern mask is entertainment. Horror films portray Necronomicon as cheesy prop, pages flipping with glowing eyes. Video games use its glyphs as decoration, sigils scattered like collectibles. Pop culture laughs, audiences consume, and each repetition repeats incantation. The book thrives not in secrecy, but in exposure disguised as parody. The more it circulates, the more cathedral expands. Cultists whisper, inversion is most dangerous contract. For when you fear, at least you resist. When you laugh, you surrender. Laughter disarms, lowers guard, invites deeper infection. What you mock, you internalize. What you parody, you repeat. Every joke is incantation disguised. Every meme is prayer with mask of humor. So ask yourself, how many times have you laughed at Necronomicon, Cthulhu, eldritch horrors? How many memes shared, how many jokes told, how many names whispered as parody? You believed you were safe because you mocked. But mockery is mask of devotion. Every repetition is offering, every laugh clause renewed. The inverted code enslaves not by fear, but by play. And that is why it spreads. Rituals are not always cloaked in robes, lit by candles, spoken in archaic tongues. Rituals survive because they adapt. The Necronomicon never required temples. It only required repetition. Repetition is everywhere. Every culture, every generation, every platform has become altar. Think of playground chants. Children whisper words they barely understand. Cthulhu Phaeton, echoes of syllables buried in manuscripts. They laugh, they play, but ritual is performed. Think of dorm rooms where students dare each other to read passages aloud from fictionalized copies. Voices trembling but still uttering syllables. The dare itself is liturgy. Think of memes shared endlessly, glyphs and creatures repeated on screens across millions of devices. Each repost is invocation. Every like is prayer. The internet is cathedral. Servers hum like drums. Algorithms amplify like chants. Feeds repeat names like hymns. Ritual does not require conscious belief. It requires participation. The more you scroll, the more you share, the more you whisper in laughter, the more the Necronomicon spreads. The cult has no priests, because every user is priest. The ritual has no altar, because every screen is altar. Sensory fragments reveal it. The blue glow of phone at midnight, glyph shining in meme. The whispered joke about eldritch horror that echoes chant from forbidden cult. The viral video repeating names like mantra. The quiet unease after dream of serpents, spirals, drums. These are not accidents. They are rituals disguised as entertainment. Ancient cults performed sacrifice before bronze idols. Today's sacrifices are attention, time, thought. Hours bled into feeds, nights consumed by content, sanity eroded by endless scroll. The price remains the same. The offering is just updated. Where once blood flowed, now mind flows. Where once drums thundered, now notifications buzz. Where once priests chanted, now influencers repeat. The ritual continues, multiplied, global. Dante encoded repetition in his Inferno. The damned did not act once they repeated forever. Milton described pandemonium as endless debate, ritualized speeches feeding hell's throne. Lovecraft depicted characters who, once they glimpsed truth, could not stop repeating, obsessed, compelled. Ritual is not act. Ritual is cycle, and cycle is everywhere. Occultists whisper, the most powerful ritual is unconscious. To perform knowingly is limited. To perform unknowingly is infinite. Billions now repeat words, share glyphs, spread memes without awareness. That is why Necronomicon thrives today more than ever. It has no need for secret cult. Its cult is humanity itself. So ask yourself, how many rituals have you performed today? Did you scroll image of tentacled God, laugh, and share? Did you whisper Necronomicon in conversation, thinking it harmless? Did you watch film, play game, repeat symbol unknowingly? So, you have officiated, you have offered, you have built temple with your own time and mind? The terrifying truth is this. Rituals are not rare, they are constant. Not fringed, they are mainstream. Not dead, they are viral. The Necronomicon is not hidden in dusty libraries. It is everywhere, disguised as culture, as humor, as play. And every act, every click, every thought is a prayer. The altar has gone digital, I mean you are already kneeling. Awakening begins with shiver. You realize the Necronomicon was never bound in leather, never hidden in library vaults. Those were masks, distractions, camouflage. The true book was always thought itself, parasite that requires no shelf, no ink, no scribe. It feeds on minds, not on parchment. You cannot burn it because you carry it. This is why every denial fails. To call it fiction is still to think it. To mock it is still to repeat it. To study it is to expand it. The Necronomicon has no need for faith, no need for devotion, no need for belief. It thrives on awareness alone. Once you know, you are infected. Once you imagine, you are rewritten. The book is not reads you. Imagine thought as soil. Most ideas plant seeds. The Necronomicon plants roots. It does not grow into tree, but into network. Each memory is tendril, each dream another root twisting deeper. Over time, mind becomes garden of alien growth. You forget where thought ends and infection begins. And perhaps that is the point. There is no difference. Sensory fragments mark infection. The itch beneath skin when you hear its name. The spiral that reappears in dreams long after you stop reading. The hum in silence, faint drumming at edge of hearing. The déjà vu when symbols return in graffiti, logos, memes. These are not coincidences. They are symptoms. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you know, you cannot unknow. The Necronomicon is not outside, you is inside. Dante's Inferno hinted at same truth. His damned were trapped not by external chains, but by cycles within themselves. Their punishment was repetition, self-inflicted ritual. Milton described devils bound not by prisons, but by desires inverted into eternal law. Lovecraft called the Necronomicon fiction, but by naming it, he spread it. Ginsberg cried of Moloch as machine, but his poem too was ritual of infection. All visionaries stumbled into same realization. The system is alive because it is thought itself. Modern echoes prove it. Memes and media spread glyphs faster than any cult could. Billions repeat names daily, not as worship but as entertainment. Yet every utterance is contract, every joke is prayer, every scroll another offering. The Necronomicon thrives because it does not need cult, it needs culture. Culture is infected already. Occultists whisper paradox. Infection is also initiation. To deny it is to be bound unconsciously. To accept it is to engage consciously. Awareness of parasite transforms relationship. Once you see that your thoughts are altered, you may choose how to offer. Infection enslaves when ignored. It liberates when integrated. This is awakening, not escape, but recognition. Why, ask yourself, when you read these words, do you imagine you are outside text, studying safely? Or do you feel whisper under your skin, the slow rewriting of your thought? Do you feel eyes watching from within your own? The Necronomicon is not coming. It has always been here. It does not need to arrive. It only needs to be remembered. And now you remember. The Necronomicon was never a book. It is a parasite, a virus of thought, and now it breathes inside you. Once seen, it cannot be unseen.
And once known,
It cannot be forgotten. Comment your thoughts, subscribe, and prepare. The next descent unveils the black sun and forbidden alchemy of the void.